As the midterm elections approach, polls continue to reveal inflation and the economy are the main factors influencing voters' decisions at the ballot box. And given the Biden administration's abysmal record on the economy, Republican candidates appear to have momentum as we head into the final stretch. Now, it's worth noting that we've seen many polls massively miss the mark recently, actually in recent years, beginning with former President Trump's first run for the White House. So what should we be looking for as we forecast the upcoming elections? And can we? Quite frankly, what it comes down to is who shows up to vote. And so I'm going to encourage you just to use this as a reference point, but make sure that you show up and you vote. Joining me now to discuss this and more is John McLaughlin, CEO and partner of McLaughlin and Associates, a national survey research and strategic services company. In 2016, he worked as an advisor and pollster for the Trump campaign. John, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me back, Tony.
All right, so let's first take the issues. What are the top issues that your polls are showing matter to the voters? Now, I think the president and the Democratic Party thinks it's all about abortion, but is that the case?
No, in fact, they're trying to make more of the Hobbs decision than actually happened because most states didn't change their laws. So, and most voters know it. And the reality is, when you're looking at we post monthly polls, and we're about to post a new national monthly poll, and the Republicans for a generic ballot were tied in August 45-45. Then in September 48-44, the Republicans took a lead. Now it's 49-43, which is like the numbers we saw in 1994. Since I'm an old man, I remember that election when I polled for Gingrich and the Republican leadership. And what it's being driven by is economic issues are the top issues. And 61% of all voters think the economy is in recession. And 67-26, they say the economy is getting worse, not better. And when you ask people, how has inflation affected them? 47% of all voters, almost half, said it's affecting them to the point that they can't afford basic necessities. And you have another 38% who are telling us that while they can afford basic necessities, they've had to make changes in their lifestyle due to inflation. And abortion as a top issue is only about 6% saying it's the top issue, the top determining issue. So what you've got is an election where it's being driven by disapproval of Joe Biden, where 67% of all voters think that he's responsible of those that think it's on the wrong track. 65% say the country's on the wrong track. 67% of them say it's Biden's fault. And it's a referendum on Biden and the Democrats. Their policies are failing. And you have a national crime wave.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Where does crime fit into this?
Crime is more of a local issue. Like we poll, I'm full disclosure, I'm a partisan pollster. I poll for Republican candidates across the country. We're seeing Lee Zeldin in New York, in a virtual tie with Kathy Hochul, primarily because New York's undergoing a crime wave like they've never undergone before, where they have this cashless bail program where people get arrested for violent crimes and are released. And, Lee held a press conference the other day where a subway stop in Jackson, Queens, where a person had been killed by pushing him off the subway platform. Well, there's been 40 instances of people being pushed off subway platforms this year in New York City. So you're seeing a Republican do well in New York City among minority voters. The Democrats are in a panic right now about Kathy Hochul in New York. And the Democrat Attorney General, who's a radical, who's Tish James, she says the law now today has to be changed. Well, where's she been for 4 years? I mean, this came under Andrew Cuomo and Kathy Hochul. They signed it into law. And it's when they're all getting bad polls that they might get beat by Republicans, then all of a sudden they say they might do something. You can't trust them.
A revelation. So the January 6th hearings that the Democrats have been having on Capitol Hill, it appeared that they hoped that would be an election issue for them, but it seems to have completely dropped off the radar as an election issue.
Absolutely, because they're trying to run against Donald Trump again. And they're persecuting President Trump. And President Trump really looks good right now in terms of it's like buyer's remorse. We have almost 7 out of 10 voters who are Republican primary voters want him to run again. 4 to 5 will support him if he runs again. And he leads the field with over 50, a field of a dozen possible candidates, including Governor DeSantis, with over 50% of the vote. Nobody comes close to him. So it's backfiring, that it's making him stronger, that he and his candidates are going to do well. They tried the same thing last year to Glenn Youngkin, and look what happened in Virginia.
Right. Yeah.
He won, and it was a Republican sweep.
John, we only got about a minute and a half left. Tell us a little bit about the science of polling and why it's becoming so difficult to predict the outcomes of these elections, and how you have managed to become a little more accurate than the others.
Well, first of all, it's media bias. Most of the polls you hear about are taken by the media, and the media has been corrupted and infiltrated. The most mainstream media, not you, Tony, but other mainstream media, has been corrupted by Democrat operatives who have, do their news coverage and then are in control of these polls. So you've got like Chuck Todd, he was a former Democrat operative. He's at NBC. George Stephanopoulos, he's at ABC. Andrew Cuomo's brother is no longer Chris at CNN, but they're there, and people like them and former Democrats are controlling a lot of these polls. So when you look at a poll, the first thing I do is what's Republican versus Democrat? And if they've got not enough Republicans, of course they won't have enough Trump voters. So they were doing that on purpose to basically say the Republicans can't win, don't bother giving them money. Well, the voters don't pay any attention to that.
Right.
So now you're seeing polls where the Republicans are surging in the Senate races and for Congress.
So it's not so much predicting what will happen as they're trying to shape the outcome of what would happen with their polls. Very quickly, we're up against the break, John, but your predictions for the midterm?
Well, first of all, my predictions are we're 19 days out. People got to go out and vote. These are just polls.
Right.
If they get complacent, if Republicans, conservatives, evangelical voters, if we get complacent and do not vote because we think we're going to win, then the Democrats will have a better day than expected and could be left in charge of the U.S. Senate and possibly or control of the House. We've got to go out and vote, and if we go out and vote, it should be a good day. But we've got till November 8th. That's it. That's a long time in politics.
Well, we'll leave it there, and we'll talk more later. John McLaughlin, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.